The smell of smoke and grilled chicken clung to Miguel Ramos's hands like a second skin. Since sunrise, he'd been tending charcoal pits in the small, humble streets of Iloilo, where the heat shimmered off tin roofs. The air was a constant perfume of soy sauce, calamansi, and garlic. Miguel wasn't a chef by training or a businessman by birth. He was simply a man who believed that a plate of food could tell a story better than words ever could. His story began with Inasal, chicken grilled over an open flame, brushed with vibrant annatto oil, and served with rice steamed in banana leaves. Locals loved it. Tourists who stumbled upon his small eatery called it good for street food. But Miguel dreamed bigger. He wanted the world to know that Filipino barbecue wasn't just street food, it was art. So, when an international investors summit opened in Manila, Miguel gathered every peso he had and bought a booth. He called his concept Fire and Rice, a modern take on tradition, with clean branding, fast casual service, and the same smoky soul of home. When the investors arrived, men in suits and women with clipboards, Miguel stood proudly, grilling samples himself. The aroma filled the air. Sweet, savory, smoky, distinctly Filipino. But as the first group approached his sign, they chuckled. Filipino barbecue? One investor smirked. Too ethnic, too messy. Another added, it'll never work in the global market. Nobody eats with their hands outside Asia. Their laughter hit harder than he expected, but Miguel just smiled. Try a bite, he offered. They didn't. They moved on to the next booth, a vegan salad startup from New York, leaving Miguel staring at his untouched, glistening skewers. That night he went home exhausted, his heart too heavy to even eat. He sat outside his eatery, watching smoke rise into the humid air, whispering to himself, maybe they're right. Just then, a customer approached, an elderly woman with her grandson, both regulars. She said, Miguel, my grandson refuses to eat unless it's your chicken. Don't ever stop, huh? This is happiness on a plate. The boy nodded, his mouth full of rice. And just like that, his fire came back. A week later, an unexpected email arrived. A junior investor who'd passed his booth had secretly tried a leftover sample, reheated by the event staff. He couldn't stop thinking about it. He invited Miguel to a private tasting, saying, your flavor deserves a second look. Miguel didn't sleep that night. He prepped with a newfound purpose, mixing marinades and grinding peppercorns by hand, the way his grandmother taught him. No shortcuts. The next day, he arrived at a penthouse in Makati, a world of polished marble floors and panoramic city views. The investors, in suits worth more than his entire stall, watched him like hawks. He set up his grill on the balcony, the wind whipping at the smoke. But when the first piece of chicken hit the coals, everything changed. The air filled with that rich, golden smell of Inasal, caramelized glaze, sizzling fat, and the sweet tang of vinegar rising like perfume. They tasted it in silence. Then, one of the most skeptical investors, the man from Dubai who laughed at him, slowly put down his fork. This, he said, tastes like a story. Miguel looked up. A story? The man nodded. Yes. I can taste the streets, the people, the love. It's not just food. It's memory. By the end of the night, that same man offered to fund Miguel's first international branch, starting with a pilot test at Manila AS Airport. It was a small step, but for Miguel it felt like conquering a mountain. He called his mother, his voice shaking. Ma, they said yes. On the other end of the line, she cried quietly. Months later, Fire and Rice opened in NAIA Terminal 3. The design blended bamboo textures with modern steel, and its aroma filled the air long before the sign caught anyone's eye. At first, people walked past, curious but hesitant. But then came the travelers, Filipinos returning home, foreigners on layovers. One bite was all it took. Videos started appearing online. Filipino BBQ in the airport? A travel vlogger shouted in disbelief, chewing happily. Soon, lines stretched down the terminal. CNN Travel called it a smoky taste of home before takeoff. The investors who once laughed were now calling non-stop. Miguel took meetings in boardrooms he once only dreamed of entering, but he never changed his recipe. He told every new partner the same thing. The flavor that built this brand came from the same grill that burned in my backyard. But Miguel wasn't done. He wanted to bring Filipino barbecue to the world stage. He applied for the Global Street Food Festival in Singapore, a competition featuring the best from 40 countries, judged by Michelin star chefs and world-renowned critics. People told him he was crazy. "You're competing against the world's best," they warned. Miguel only smiled. "Then they'll finally taste who we are." He spent weeks refining his glaze, balancing spice, and practicing his plating. On the day of the competition, he stood behind his small booth, armed only with a charcoal grill, banana leaves, and his faith, surrounded by competitors with high-tech kitchens. As the judges approached, one whispered, "This looks simple." Miguel replied softly, "Simplicity is the hardest to perfect." He grilled in silence, brush, turn, brush, turn. When they took their first bite, no one spoke. The smoky sweetness hit first, followed by vinegar's tang, garlic's depth, and the tenderness of chicken kissed by fire. One of the judges closed her eyes. "This," she said, "is balance." They awarded Miguel Best New Street Cuisine of the Year, the first Filipino dish to ever win that title. The crowd erupted. For the first time, Filipino barbecue trended globally, not as a novelty, but as culinary art. On stage, holding the golden plaque, Miguel thought about his father's backyard grill and the laughter he had endured. Later, the investor who first mocked him came forward with tears in his eyes. "I should have believed," he said. "You changed how we see your country's food." Miguel smiled. "That's all I ever wanted." By the next year, Fire and Rice expanded across Asia. Miguel walked out onto a terrace one evening, looking over the city lights as smoke from his grill curled toward the stars. He whispered to himself, "They laughed at first, but laughter fades. Flavor lasts forever." And somewhere across the ocean, a new group of entrepreneurs tasted Inasal for the first time, their eyes wide. "Who made this?" one asked. The answer came softly. A man who never stopped believing his fire was enough. The world had finally caught up to the taste of the Philippines, smoky, soulful, and unforgettable, and at the heart of it all was one man, a dreamer with a grill, and a story that started with laughter and ended with fire. Thank you so much for watching. If this story inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that feed the soul. We'll see you in the next one.